Beneath every strong, independent woman lies a little girl who had to learn how to get back up and to never depend on anyone. Anonymous. Welcome to Get Real with Shamiza. I'm your host, Shamiza Ali, and it's truly a pleasure to be here with you this evening. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, welcome. YouTube, Allen Zone Radio, and on NTN Channel 69 in Georgetown. Welcome to Get Real with Shamiza. It is a pleasure to be here with you this evening. Tonight we have a fun and a very entertaining night for you. Without further ado, here is a message from our sponsors.
NNS Ogle Licensed Custom Brokerage Services Inc. is a Guyanese-owned and registered company located at Lot 49 Public Road, Kitty, Georgetown, with branch office at Lot 10 Acre Media Ida on the west coast of Demerara. We offer an all-inclusive service, including delivery for all your commercial imports of air and sea cargo, containerized or LCL, vehicle and equipment, and much more. Make that call today, 225-5495, or visit our pages at www.nsalgubrokerage.com or find us on Facebook at NS Algu Brokerage.
Gavin sing at Rancho. Yeah, my liquor is my lover. I was born a drinker. Yeah, my liquor is my lover. I was born a drinker.
Enos Driving School offers training for CDL licenses, including tractor-trailers, trucks, and school buses. Just think, with a CDL license, you can have access to thousands of driving jobs at large companies such as FedEx, UPS, MTA, or New York Sanitation. Enos Driving School also offers defensive driving courses and training classes for cars and motorcycles, all taught by their college-trained instructors who can even schedule your road test appointments. Inquire about other driving and training packages as well. You might even be qualified for their free CDL training, as they are a certified institution with the New York State Workforce One program. Call Enos Driving School today. They've been serving our community for over 10 years.
New faces, not one, not two, but 6 different races. You know when the sun kisses your skin, you're in the right place. G-U-I-A-N-S. Oh, that's my beautiful country. G-U-I-A-N-S. One people, one nation, one destiny. Don't stop for a minute. Come, let me take a walk with Brother Tiki. You'll see our landmarks and our monuments, just so unique. The hybrid structure, lighthouse, the tallest wooden structure, cathedral, 176th Street Monument.
My co-host is no stranger to the West Indian community and to Get Real with Shamiza, a young man that I'm so proud of. Please welcome District Leader Richard David. Richard, welcome to Get Real with Shamiza.
I'm finally here on the set. It's
You
a
are-
beautiful set.
Well, thank you. It is a pleasure to have you here in person. I know we've done several shows with you, but you were always away from me.
I've done shows with you when I was abroad. I've done shows when you were launching.
Yes,
I did your wrap up,
yes.
and here we are in the second season. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind words, Richard. Now, we are here tonight and we have an exciting, but yet a program that as a woman, I'm very proud of. And you being a district leader must be, as a West Indian person, very, very excited to introduce these ladies.
I am, and this is a year where we're seeing incredible progress by women at every level of government. And
Absolutely.
tonight we're going to meet some people who are breaking every barrier that's been set.
Yes.
They're going to places that no one that's looked like them or from their background has ever gone before.
Yes.
And I'm really glad that you make space for these kinds of topics on your show.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, when I was starting the show, one of the things that I did was reach out to you, Richard, and I said, hey, what can we do? How can we help? And what can I really bring to the community? And you're one of those people who not only advised, but you had great feedback. So to really have you here with me tonight is special because never ever would I ever think that we will be together tonight hosting a group of women, because you know that that's something that I was very passionate about, having women and having strong women who can really inspire other women to lead and to really bring forward how we can make changes in our community.
That's right. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit. You probably didn't need anyone or any advice, but yeah, you're making space for these important topics, and you yourself are leading the way. I'm ready to get real with Shamiza.
And I'm ready to get as real as possible. So, my first guest, she is no stranger to our West Indian community, right? You yourself, you happen to have a little bit of interaction or a lot of interaction with her. What can you tell us about Attorney Ogle?
Andrea Ogle, I met Andrea a long time ago. And
Okay.
Andrea has been an attorney. She does a lot of matrimonial and family law.
Oh,
Andrea is somebody that's volunteered her time pro bono to help a lot of people in the community. She's also done different things, different panels where she's featured. She's a speaker on a lot of different topics: wills, estates, trusts. And Andrea is just a good person. And I'll let Andrea talk about herself. But one of the
right.
things that's really inspiring about Andrea is a lot of people told her that she couldn't do this.
Oh,
A lot of people told her that, they just don't think this is for her.
yeah.
And they were making decisions that they thought was best for her. And Andrea, she persevered, and she's here today, and we're voting for her.
We're uh, we're here to support and to find ways to show the community why they should go out and vote for her November 2nd. Uh, at this point, we would like to introduce her, but first, let me take a look. With more than 20 years serving the community in the legal system, the legislator appears in court daily and has seen firsthand how the court impacts the lives of real people. She will make history as the first Asian American to ever be nominated as a candidate for civil court judge countrywide in Queens County. She's also a member of the Macon B. Allen Black Bar Association and the Queens County Women's Bar Association. Please welcome attorney Andrea Sabita Ogle.
Thank you for having me here
And
tonight.
while Andrea comes on,
Yeah.
I've had so many really great interactions with Andrea, including one at the Rotary Club just the other night, a few nights ago.
Yes, I
And I
did
hope
see
Andrea
that.
talks about this on today's program, because she really talks about some of her siblings. And I met her mom, who is 90-something years old.
90 something. Wow.
And she has a hot mouth. her mom.
Richard, I don't know if she'll appreciate you saying her mom has a hot
It's
mouth,
okay.
but we'll find out in a
It's
little
okay.
bit.
It's okay. Auntie, if you're watching this, it's said with a lot of love.
And
Welcome.
she gives the love right back to you.
Aw.
There you are. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing? I know you came here from Guyana.
Yes, I was born in Guyana. I was born in New Amsterdam. My mother was born in Skeldon, and my father is from Georgetown. And we came to the United States back in the early 70s at a time when there was a shortage for people in the medical profession, which is part of the reason why my parents migrated to the United States. And At that point, my parents brought myself and my 4 siblings back to New York, and we settled in Queens County. Both myself and all of my brothers, I have 4 siblings, we are all products of the Queens educational system. I attended Queens College as my undergrad, and I attended Seton Hall Law School for my law school education. And once I completed my law school education, I actually had been working in the corporate environment for many, many years. But, and I say this all the time, Queens was not as nearly as diverse as it is now. And at that time, it was very obvious who the immigrants were in the community. And when I attended law school, um, it was also a struggle, not because of academics, but because in the classes that I attended, I was the only one who looked like myself. And I felt that it was important for me to give back to the community. So after I completed working in the corporate environment, I decided that I would set up a private practice in Queens County. And I did that about 21 years ago. And at that time, in addition to the private practice, I felt that it was important that I also do work with the underserved community and our most vulnerable, because those are the people who need our services the most, and they don't have the means to afford the services that they would need in order to get appropriate representation. So I actually got the appropriate training that was necessary to become a member of the 18B assigned counsel panel in Queens County Family Court. And it consists of a panel of attorneys who are certified by the courts to represent adults and children in all phases of the family court proceedings. And in addition to that, I was also certified to represent them in proceedings involving the surrogates court and the Supreme Court as well. And in the family court, most people have a presumption that you only deal with issues regarding custody and visitation, but that's not necessarily true, because family law crosses over all areas of law. And we have to learn things very, very quickly. And for example, in the family court, we deal with child abuse issues. We deal with issues related to contempt of courts. We also deal with issues related to juvenile delinquency. And in addition to the matters that people assume, which are custody and visitation. But the family court actually has restrictions in terms of the parameters of law that it is able to address. So we have to draw on other areas of law. For example, with the juvenile delinquency proceedings, we have to look at violations of the penal code, which is the criminal law. When we deal with special immigrant juvenile status, we have to address issues related to immigration. When we deal with issues related to abuse and neglect or orders of protection, we also have to look at issues related to housing. And in order
Andrea's
for me to
making sure she
continue,
gets it all in.
She's definitely making sure that all of it is out there.
Definitely.
so in addition to me being on the 18B panel, I also decided that I wanted to extend myself into the community as well. So over the years, I also received special training so that when I went out into the community, I had some knowledge of what I was going to be doing and what I was talking about. So to be an 18B attorney, I had to be certified on an annual basis by all of the judges in the family court where I practiced. And I've been certified for the last 21 years to do that. I'm also trained in mediation and conflict resolution. I was also a former revocation hearing officer for youth who violated their aftercare once they were released into the community. I also, in addition to that, I'm trained as an impartial hearing officer for the New York State for children with disabilities. I also am a small claims court arbitrator, and I also was trained in guardianship and representing the adult and incapacitated as well. So what I did was I felt like people who looked like us needed to be educated and to be assisted, because we come from a very, very diverse community, not only in ethnicity, but also in origin. And because I come from a multicultural background, both in ethnicity and as far as my religion is concerned, it helped me to blend into the diverse culture in Queens. So I engage myself in community organizations like the Interfaith Council for Development. I also worked with educators like Dr. Dan Paul Narine, who is very, very active in the community, especially with our youth, preparing programs on literacy. And I would come into the libraries on Saturday mornings to do programs with the youth on literacy. In Go ahead.
No, I want to make sure that we're having a dialogue, because there are people listening,
Okay.
and I want to make sure the conversation is broken up into as many like digestible pieces as possible.
That's
But I
fine.
definitely wanted to, when Andrea talks about being a family court attorney,
Yes.
it's incredibly personal to me,
Mhm.
and my brothers. I come from my family's divorce. My parents divorced,
Mhm.
and it was the best decision they ever made. I'm so happy they got divorced. But we relied on a family court attorney,
Yes.
and it was one of those moments. I was only 10 years old, and I had just come to this country, and I looking back at that, I wish that attorney was also Guyanese. I wish that attorney had the background that my family was going through, because how do I tell somebody that I don't want to live with one parent?
Yeah.
And how do I even say that? Because I just came to this country. I don't even
Mhm.
speak to adults in authority, by looking at them in the eyes and all these kinds of things. I'm from a small village. So
Yeah. And at 10 years old, you can imagine, like, not only are you new to this place that's foreign to you, right? You're in a new environment, but you are going through one of the life events that, other people have probably will go through or has been through, but as a child, you don't know where your thoughts are. You don't know where anything is at this point. And having someone who can identify with you and who can really listen, because as I'm listening to this, I feel like most of us wished we had someone like Attorney Ogle, or we were aware that there was someone like her who can be there for us.
and
Yeah.
and now to have her as a judge, Andrea, it's not just personal, right? Because a lot of the cultural connections are, I think, fundamental.
Yes.
But she has over 20 years of experience, and so I want to know that the judge that's before me not only is from community and understands these things, but is an expert in so many areas of the law. And I'm really glad to hear, Andrea, that you have expertise in dispute resolution and mediation. That there are juvenile cases that are brought before the court. I didn't know that.
Yes.
And while I started off talking about divorces and sometimes child separation,
Yeah.
It's really, I think, a benefit for so many New Yorkers and so many people in
Yes.
Queens, because Andrea is a citywide, borough-wide candidate, to know that this is someone that they can vote for.
Absolutely. Now, Attorney Ogle, I wanted to know what has inspired you to become an attorney?
Um, I actually started off with the group that I went to high school with. We all became attorneys, and we all became attorneys for different reasons. My brothers, on the other hand, the group that they went to school with, they all became surgeons. So I'm actually the first lawyer in my family. And
Yes.
the reason why I decided to go into law is because I felt very, very passionate about the way that the footprint of Queens was changing over the years. And I was right in the middle of that change. And I thought about ways that I could best serve the community while those changes were being were we were undergoing those changes, because there was so many voids within the community that needed to be filled. And I know that I couldn't do it all by myself, but I thought that law was the best area for me to do it in, because decisions that the courts make affect the lives of people, and it also affects the lives of community. And public service is very, very important to me. That's something that's a value that was taught to me by both of my parents, because they were also in public service as well. And I felt that by hearing the stories that people were telling and the gravity of the situations that they were discussing, that they needed advocacy. And it was important that they have someone who was passionate about not only the issues that were facing the community, but someone who was also passionate about the law and had an enthusiasm for knowledge of the law and wanted to continue to do good in the community. So those are the reasons why I went to law school, and that is the reason why I practice as an attorney. I've been in court for the last 20 years every day from Monday to
Wow.
Friday.
And
So go ahead.
it sounds, with your experience, 21 years in the courts and everything that you've been doing for your community and the courts, that you have the right to be where you are tonight. Now, there is so much to discuss and there is so much to get into. But before we do that, I do want to take this opportunity to introduce our next candidate that is running. Um, she is at the age of 5. She wanted a career in law. She wanted to be a voice and advocate for those in need. She saw how hard her parents worked and how they struggled. Along with her neighbors, friends, and family, she recognized that financial, cultural, educational, and language barriers, combined with the fear of law enforcement and the courts, put them at a disadvantage. It is a pleasure to have the Honorable Judge Karen Gopee. Welcome to Get Real with Shamisa.
Hi, Shamisa. Hi, Andrea. Hi,
Hi.
Richard. Thank you for having me.
Good night, Judge.
Good night, Judge. We are truly honored to have you here in our presence this evening. And we are looking forward to hear more from you, more from Attorney Ogle. And we do have a little bit of a surprise, but we'll keep it there for a moment. But you've changed a lot. There was a lot of different things that has been happening to you in the court system, and a lot of different history that you've made as well as Attorney Ogle. And I'm so proud of both of you. Did I say that before?
Thank you.
I think having these people on the show shows how proud you are of them. But I don't
Definitely.
know that the candidates know that. And I've been with both of the candidates at different events. They're working really hard. They're pounding the pavement. They're doing
Yes.
everything they can to get the message out. And in fact, I think that they're at events right now calling in
Yes.
because this is real. The votes, people are voting right now in New York City,
Yes.
and you can. And I just want to make sure that your viewers, know this.
Yes.
Voting has started, and you can go any day of the week, and you can go on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and then the last day you can go is Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, November 2nd. The polls are closed on Monday, but they open at 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and they close at 9 at night. And both of these candidates will be on the ballot all across Queens.
Now, one thing that I do want to point out, Richard, is their names, you will see it on the other side of the ballot. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Is that correct?
Yeah.
For
Well,
both?
my understanding is there's a 2-page ballot. So
Yes.
we're actually on the second page.
Make sure your poll worker gives you 2 pages. If they don't give you 2 pages, ask for the second page.
Ask for it, and kind of be demanding about it, right? Now, Attorney Ogle, I know for you, you have you don't have a competitor with you. You're actually the only one on the ballot for your position right now.
That is true. I'm actually a countywide candidate for Queens County, and I do not have a challenger, unlike my colleagues. Judge Gopi is the other candidate within Queens that was selected by the Democratic Party, in addition to myself, and Cassandra Johnson, who is the district candidate as well. And I believe both of them do have challengers. But it's not something that I can take for granted, because it's very important that we get out there and identify ourselves to the community so that they know who the candidates are. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the voters who decide who is going to be the judge. And judges are public servants to the community, and it's important that the community is aware of who the candidates are and what their qualifications are, so that when they decide to vote for a candidate, they have information on that candidate to make an informed decision.
Now, Attorney Ogle, no, Judge Gopi, you You migrated to the US when you were just 1 year old from Trinidad. I'm sure you have no recollection of that as far back, but as far back as you can remember, what are the earliest memories of you growing up here in New York?
So my earliest memories are my mom and dad, and the small apartments in different parts of East New York, Brooklyn, and my neighbors and the struggles in terms of the jobs that we're able to get, and struggling to put food on the table, and the fear of immigration. And it was not just my community. We lived in a very diverse community where it was individuals that immigrated from all over. So it was people from Dominican Republic, it was people from Mexico, it was people from Trinidad, from Guyana, from India. It was a very diverse community, but it was very similar issues in terms of employment or underemployment, in terms of supporting their kids and trying to hold on to the customs, but also assimilate to the US, and dealing with immigration issues for the most part.
And I know it was something that was very close to you. You saw it all around you. You were first appointed to the criminal court bench by Mayor de Blasio in 2015. At that time, you became the first ever Indo-Caribbean person to serve as a judge in New York State. And if elected, you will become the first to serve New York Supreme Court. That makes me and so many other people here tonight so proud of you. How does that make you feel?
I'm ecstatic because it's huge for me and for my family.
Yes.
Um, and but I also see it as the opportunity to open doors for the next generation. I grew up in a time where, and I entered the field of law in a time where there were not a lot of people who looked like me, whether it was law school or my first job. And now that I'm a judge sitting in criminal court, especially in Queens, which is very diverse, we're certainly seeing more of our population in court as victims, as defendants, as police officers, um, in different roles as attorneys. And it's amazing to me that, that we're in 2021 and we're talking about the first. That should
Yes.
never be.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I heard Attorney Ogle and you, Judge Gopi, say is people didn't look like you. Are we speaking of people with your color, female? What exactly are we speaking of when we say people that look like you?
It was everything. So I started in the field of law about 23, 25 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, and I hate to say that out loud because that's aging me. But in law school, there was a handful of people who were not white. They were, um, and when I practiced as a prosecutor, there was one other Indian person in the entire office of more than 500 attorneys.
Wow.
And when I went to court, the judges were pretty much white males. There were a few females, there were a few Black or Latino, but we're talking about a handful of minorities. We're talking about a handful of females. And so we're now, 2021, where we're talking about the fact that we need representation on the bench. We need representation, in all positions of leadership. And it's amazing to me that we're seeing so much more diversity in the people that appear before us, but the
Yes.
bench has been slower to change.
Absolutely. And with that said, I do want to introduce our third candidate here tonight and our very special guest to Get Real with Shamiza viewers. She is one of those people that she's a daughter of a Haitian immigrant raised in a union household in Southeast Queens. She said her parents instilled in her the values of hard work, respect, and public service. These values are at the core of her call to serve Queens residents. She's ready to sit as a judge in the civil court in Queens. please welcome attorney Cassandra Johnson.
Hey, Cassandra, how you doing?
Hi. Thank you for
Hi,
having
Cassandra.
me. Guys.
Surprise, everyone! We got Cassandra Johnson, and she's also running for the civil court in Southeast Queens.
Yes, and we are super proud. In case you guys didn't know or you didn't hear it yet, I'm super proud to have on Get Real with Shamiza this lineup of women who are totally incredible.
And what I'll say about that, and we'll turn it over to our special guest. We are experiencing a new Democratic Party.
Yes.
And this is in Queens. We have a new chairperson, Greg Meeks,
Mhm.
and I'm a district leader within the Democratic Party. And one of the things that we want to achieve in the party is making sure that this Democratic Party looks more like the communities that we serve, and that includes many different levels of power. And it certainly includes the judiciary.
Mhm.
One of the hottest topics in New York right now is judicial reform, and seeing some of the most heinous crimes being committed on the street, and also demands for fair, humane judgments. And a
Yes.
lot of these individuals are going to be dealing with some of the toughest cases. And it makes me feel better. It makes me feel safer. And it makes me feel like these are the people who are going to be working their best to see that there's fair and impartial justice within our court system at different levels.
Now, Attorney Johnson, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood as well?
Sure. So you said a little bit about my
Yes.
background. I actually was born in Far Rockaway, and then my family moved to Queens Village. And actually, a lot of my mother's side of the family lives here in Queens. So we are a close family. I think one of my closest cousins is 6th removed. That's how close we are. But we growing up in Queens, I feel like I've always been in school where it was fairly mixed. And I always felt like, what brings me here? How do I connect with people? I think I've always contemplated that and in the way that I am with people. And that's why I'm happy that I chose to become an attorney, because we get to not just reflect the community, we get to serve our community, as Andrea said earlier. And I was actually a math major before I chose to go to law school because I just happened to be good in math.
One
And
of the few.
Yeah, and you have quite a history at math.
I do. I was grappling with what I would end up doing. And I majored in math because I just happened to be good at it. But, I grew up at the Cross Island YMCA from preschool. I was in gymnastics and the swim team, and my parents kept us active, which was great. And there was the couple down the block that if something ever happened, we'd go down the block and spend time with them. So it was nice growing up in Queens Village, and that's why I chose to come back and live in Queens Village. I love Queens. So
Yes, and it's what I'm hearing that's common in all of these women. They grew up in Queens. They know the struggle of the residents here in Queens. So it's only fitting that they are who they are today because of the upbringing that they've had here in Queens, New York.
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, we've left the borough, just so we're clear.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love Queens too, and it's all.
We have to
Queens
be
love.
politically correct at some point, right?
It's all love. Judge Cassandra, not yet Judge,
Yes.
or Andrea, can you give us an example of the kinds of cases for our viewers that come before the civil court, just in case people aren't familiar with the civil court?
Well, I'll talk about a couple of them. So in civil court, you can sue for up to $25,000. So it could be a contract dispute, it could be a car accident case, slip and fall, any type of personal injury case, something where you're suing for money. And the limit right now is $25,000.
Okay.
You can also do a name change there, but that's not where you would go for family law issues. It's not where the DA's office prosecutes cases, and they don't deal with divorces, foreclosure actions. Those would be dealt with in Supreme Court.
And I want to get Judge, and I keep
Yes.
calling them Judge because I'm speaking it into existence.
Yes.
But I want to get Andrea into this. Andrea, are there other examples of cases that would come before you if you were a judge?
We can't hear her.
You're on mute.
As if she's on.
It would actually depend on where we were placed. But
Okay.
The civil court, in addition to what Cassandra mentioned, you also have the small claims part, which handles matters up to $10,000, and you also have the housing part. But as a candidate who's elected for civil court, you can be placed in either civil court, or you can be placed in the family court, which deals with the portions of the Family Court Act, and or you can be placed in the criminal court, which addresses issues that violate the penal law.
Wow. Now, my question is to Attorney Johnson. Was there ever a time that you wanted to be anything other than an attorney?
An accountant. With that math background, Cassandra.
Accounting was boring. I took that class in high school. I didn't like that class, actually.
I needed you to be my friend in high school to get through math class.
And we'll go now to Judge Gopi. You are very open about the struggles of us as immigrants living and raising a family in this country. What is your advice to immigrant families just migrating to the U.S.?
So it's a struggle,
Judge.
but it's certainly worth it. And most people who come to this country, like my parents, like so many other immigrants, do so for their kids and for opportunities and for education, etc. And really, truly, America offers every opportunity. Realistically, my parents worked menial jobs and they did not have a formal education. And we're now talking about me possibly being on the Supreme Court. So every dream, nothing's impossible.
Supreme Court is what I want to highlight there. That's what I heard. Supreme Court.
And I don't know if I told you this. We're all very proud of all of our candidates, but we're also proud because these are people from our neighborhood, and they come with a lot of identity politics, right? They look like us. They're West Indian, all kinds of things. But I want you to leave with this also, that they're the most qualified candidates. They've spent time doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think I heard Cassandra Johnson saying what she wanted to be. Did I miss that?
You didn't miss it. I didn't say it. You're right.
Oh.
Actually, I wanted to be an engineer.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know, Cassandra. That's like accounting. Get out of here with that. But we're so lucky that you chose this profession, because not only do you have a really nice personality, which I think is important when people come before you, but it shows a different dimension and a different aspect of this.
Absolutely. And I feel that she definitely has the look to go with that. What do you think, Richard?
I don't know. I feel like she needs the white. Do you remember the white hair? Do they the wig that the British courts wear?
Oh,
and the guy. I think they still do this
you know
in the
what?
Caribbean.
Halloween is coming up. Maybe we can convince her that should be her costume.
Speaking of things,
it won't be a costume soon, because I hopefully become your next judge, right?
Oh.
Speaking of things that are coming up, Diwali is coming up, and I know that Judge Gopi has some family history around Diwali that's also propelled her to pursue a career in law. Mm-hmm. Judge Gopi, do you want to talk about that?
Oh wow! So many years ago, I was approximately 5 years old when immigration, called by a family member, came and arrested my dad on Diwali Day. And that certainly created impulse to work with the law. Um, Thankfully, he was released from INS custody and returned home. And my mom at that point was a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, all under the age of 5. And my dad was the breadwinner, and it was very difficult hiring an attorney, dealing with immigration, and paying for an attorney when he barely can afford to support his family. So that definitely inspired me to get involved with the law and to help people who did not or needed help, that did not have the opportunities, that did not have, um, could not trust the attorneys that were representing them at the time, and did not know and were distrustful of law enforcement and the immigration courts.
Wow. Now, Judge Gopi, I know that you um, you were very open of the struggles as you just mentioned. What is the biggest lesson that you have learned as a judge so far?
That's a really good question, and that's hard. I think as a judge and as an attorney, and having practiced for more than 20 years, um, it's really about listening and having respect. And when you listen and you show respect to anyone that comes before you, whether it's a victim or someone that's accused of a crime, if you take the time and you pay attention and you speak to the person as opposed to at the person, you're more likely to have someone that's compliant and that's willing to accept whatever you rule. You know, even as a judge, um, we don't control everything. We can order things or we can mandate things, but at the end of the day, the person either complies or doesn't comply. And
Wow.
what I found is by taking a moment, by explaining things, by treating the person as almost an equal, um, you're increasing the chance that that person's going to comply with whatever you're asking them to do.
Wow. I
We
heard
can use that
listened
more. We can use that more
more in
in
our
our personal lives, not just
absolutely right. I heard listen. If you really listen, you can get that person to be more compliant. And you spoke of so many things in that one very statement that made me realize that more of us need to be doing the things that you just mentioned. It's something that we need in our daily lives, right?
it takes a lot of practice, and I'm glad that these are the people that we currently have on the bench. And Judge Gopi is seeking a promotion to the Supreme Court. It's going to be historic. I want to make sure that we bring back Andrea Ogle into the conversation.
Yes.
Um, Andrea, one of the things I mentioned, and I said it with a lot of love, is about your mom and how proud she is of you. Can you talk about your family a little bit more?
Well, if you say that to my mom, she'll say, "I'm proud of all of my children."
Oh.
She never, singles out any one child. But just a little bit about my siblings. I have 4 brothers. I am actually the eldest, and my youngest brother was actually with the Department of Corrections for many, many years, and he actually got to the level of being a captain, and he retired from the Department of Corrections about 5 years ago. And I always kid around with him and I say, "You're the smart one because you get to stay home every day." And so, um, but having said that, my other 3 brothers, they actually decided to go to medical school to follow in the path of my parents. My father and my mother are both in medicine. My mother is a retired nurse midwife, and my father was a chemist and pharmacist and also a nurse, and he was also an anesthesiologist as well. And in Guyana,
Wow.
he was considered, the title that he had was a dispenser, which was equivalent to a physician, where he would go into the rural areas of Guyana serving the community there. And when we came to the United States, what my family used to do, and I'm talking specifically about my mother and my father, is that they would always invite everyone into our home who did not have family in the United States. So my house was always like a revolving door for people to come in and out of. And one of the things that they instilled in us is respect for others was very, very important, in addition to the importance of having an education. And they taught us not to prejudge people and to basically walk in the shoes of everyone that we meet, because everyone has their own story to tell. And that is kind of what I do when I represent my clients. I try to treat them with empathy, with dignity and respect. And as Judge Gopi said, it's very important to listen, because everybody wants to feel as though their voices are heard. And if you don't give them the compassion that they need, it creates a lot of frustration when you try to represent someone.
So true.
Very, very, very true. And as I'm listening there, it sounds like a lot of our household, you invite people that don't have too many families and that kind of stuff. Like, you bring them in because you know their history, you know that you could be that person. It's a typical thing in our West Indian community. We try to help that person or bring them into our family, to be there for them. Our upbringing is such is one that is very, we can all identify with the little things, right?
It's true. And I grew up mostly in New York, and but that was my upbringing in Guyana as well. But when I think of my neighborhood in New York and in Southeast Queens, that's what I see as well. I see a lot of people who really care about their community.
Yes.
I see a lot of immigrant families who have done all the things that they're supposed to do and continue to work hard to build their communities.
Yes.
And I know that that's true with soon to be Judge Cassandra Johnson as well. I had the pleasure of meeting her own mom, and she has an incredible family story too.
Yes.
These are the families that are the fabric of our neighborhood.
It seems like they all have something to do with their upbringing and their parent background that inspired them to be who they are today. 20 plus years in that field that they are. And I'm not sure about Miss Johnson, but the Judge Gopi and Attorney Ogle, they've both been in their field for over 20 years. And it just seems like everything that they speak of has to do with family and their upbringing. So it's very interesting. Now, I do want to take my next question to Attorney Ogle. You were nominated by the Queens County Democratic Party as a countrywide candidate for the general election on November 2nd, 2021, for a civil court judge in Queens County. Can you explain what that means and what responsibilities it entails for you?
Well, the reason why I was selected as a candidate is because of the criteria that they use, in addition to looking at the credentials that we have. There's also a vetting process as well, where we have to be evaluated by the bar associations, and then we're ranked as either approved or not approved as candidates. I was actually selected based on merit as well, in addition to everything else, because of the work that I've done in the community. And as far as what we would be doing in terms of the cases that we would be hearing, I would be transitioning essentially from being a lawyer and not representing clients any longer to hearing cases, listening to evidence and testimony, and deciding cases based on the evidence and the testimony and the credibility of the witnesses that come before the court within the parameters of the law. But there are certain criteria also that is required in order to be a judge, which means that you have to have the appropriate temperament, you have to have knowledge of the law, you have to be impartial and free from bias, and you also have to treat people appropriately when they come into the courtroom, and you make decisions as well that can affect the lives of people.
Wow.
I know that I know Judge Ogle is going to do a remarkable job, and I straddle two spaces, political and community.
Yes.
And I know that Judge Ogle has covered both bases,
Yes.
political and community, and it really is a testament to a career working very hard and dedicated in a dedicated way. Judge, I keep doing it.
Yeah,
You know,
it's almost like you see what's happening already. Now, she does not have a competitor on the ballot with her. As a matter of fact, she doesn't have a competitor at all. She was the chosen one. So I'm trying to understand, if there's no competitors, does that make you the judge already?
No, because
all of the nominees were they received the nomination from the Democratic Party.
Right.
Andrea Ogle has no competitor,
Mhm.
but and so they're all quote unquote the chosen ones, but other parties can nominate candidates, and people
Okay.
can still run against each other.
Now, I know.
I want to just say though that Andrea Ogle, it's important for her to continue to get her message out there because it's inspiring for a lot of Caribbean women. It's inspiring for
Yes.
communities that haven't voted before or been engaged. A lot of people don't even know they're judges. And
Yes.
so it's important for her to continue to be out there because she's a role model for a lot of people who are inspired by her story.
Absolutely. And I know for her, it's not just our community here in Richmond Hill that it will be serving. She has many areas. Attorney Ogle, do you want to tell us about the areas that you cover as a judge?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but I think it would actually depend largely on the court that I was placed in. The would govern the applicable law that I would be having to address the issues that come before the court under. So it
And
would depend on whether I was in the civil court. I mean, the civil practice runs systemically through the family court, the housing court, and practice with respect to some of criminal procedure. But however, the criminal court has specific statutes related to the penal law that you would have to adhere to, which may not necessarily be applicable in civil court in and of itself.
What are the areas, I think is more of what I was trying to ask. What are the areas that you will cover as a judge in the civil court? Is that correct, Richard?
Well, I think Cassandra mentioned some of those things already. If it's civil court practice specifically, you could deal with issues related to contracts. You can deal with issues related to personal injury. You may have to deal with housing issues. If you're in the small claims area, you may have to deal in the arbitration area with issues related to breach of contract or something else. If it's in the family court, you would be dealing with issues related to child protective issues. You may deal with issues related to custody and visitation. You may also have to deal with immigration issues
and
on
for
special and juvenile status cases or guardianship. And then if you're in the criminal courts, then you're dealing with issues that fall under the parameters of the penal law.
for Cassandra Johnson, Cassandra, we didn't hear a lot from you tonight. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your resume, how long you've been practicing?
Sure. So currently I work in the Supreme Court. I'm a court attorney referee. I've been there for about 11 years. And this is, I guess, a good segue from what Andrea was saying about the types of cases that judges hear. Part of what is behind the scenes that people don't know is that judges are the instruments to providing access to justice. And to do that, it's not just deciding the cases, it's also creating programs that, like language access, having attorneys in court, for example, in the foreclosure actions that I deal with. So there are other things involved that I have been working in. So I've been doing that as a court attorney referee since 2017. And then before that, I was a law clerk to some of the judges in Queens Supreme Court as well, covering divorce. I also work for a judge in the commercial division that deals with all types of business disputes. Sometimes we call those business divorces, and here in Queens, where we're dealing with, small businesses between family and friends, it's important to recognize the nuances of the relationships that are involved when, people are in business together. And then before that, I worked for the city of New York as a staff attorney. And I basically I worked for the Human Resources Administration, and I worked on a lot of the class actions involving public assistance and any Article 78s that were involved with that. And then before that, I worked in private practice. I actually worked for my mom, who's an attorney. She's amazing. I can say that because we talked earlier about the impact of our families and how our families have inspired us. So my mom, she came here when she was 19 from Haiti and didn't speak English, went to York College, graduated in the top of her class, went to the University of Chicago where she met my dad, got her master's degree. And then later on, when I was in elementary school, went back to school and went to law school and eventually started her own practice. And so my parents actually had me working for my mom since I was in 10th grade, which is part of why I chose to go to law school. And then I worked for her after law school. And so she is my inspiration. She is the person who has taught me everything I know and is really the reason why I say both my parents because they both conspired, you know.
Great. Now, I do want to play a little game here, lighten up the mood a little bit. I think we know a little bit about each candidate quite well, but we want to, make it a little bit more free, not let them think about, who they are, what they've done. Let's lighten it up a little bit. So we're going to play a little game that we play here on Get Real with Shamiza. It's called 6 in 60. Basically what it is, you answer 6 questions in 60 seconds. We'll ask the same question to each one of the candidates. One question might change a little bit. We'll have to see. So this is our little timer, right? This is a 60-second timer. We'll turn it over as we ask the questions. I will say we go in alphabetical order. So I will start with Richard, you decide. You're in alphabetical order. Should we go to first name alphabetically or?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we will start. It easy to remember.
Exactly. So we will start with Attorney Ogle. Attorney Ogle, are you ready for this?
I guess.
All right.
As I'm going to be.
Here are your questions, and I will go right now. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Name of a book that you reread.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, I love that. Can you name a country that starts with the letter A?
With the letter A?
Yes.
Antigua.
Perfect. Do you prefer listening to music or watching a movie?
Listening to music.
A name of a food that makes you happy.
Chocolate. Anything with chocolate. Chocolate cake.
Oh, perfect. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl.
Great.
What time to spare?
Oh, it's almost, she did it almost 30 seconds.
Remarkable.
Great. Who do we go with next, Richard?
Let's go with Judge Gopi.
Judge Gopee, you're up next, and Richard will ask the same questions to you, except for one of the questions. So
can I go with Andrea's answers?
I'll start backwards. Are you, Judge Gopee, a morning person or are you a night owl?
Morning.
Name a food that makes you happy.
Tiramisu.
I like tiramisu. Do you prefer listening to music? Do you prefer to watch movies or do you dance?
It's a combination depending on what I'm in the mood for.
These Trinidadians, I can't handle it. Can you name a country that starts with the letter K?
K. Korea.
Korea works.
Okay.
Name a book that you reread.
What comes to mind is not one that's PC. 50 Shades.
Oh.
50 Shades. Okay. And what's your favorite color?
Purple.
Oh.
What
nice.
color is that? Purple.
Purple. Yeah.
What time to spare?
With time to spare. Oh wow, they're doing amazing right now.
And I mentioned Judge Gopi's nationality because it's important. She's going to be the first Trinidadian person on the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Andrea Ogle is making history as well with a Guyanese background, and Cassandra Johnson is Haitian American. Incredible women.
Yes, absolutely. Now we will go to Attorney Johnson, and here are your questions. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Purple. We have two. And name a book that you reread.
The Alchemist.
Alchemist. Nice. And can you name a country that starts with the letter C?
Colombia.
Nice. Do you prefer listening to music, watching a movie?
Depends on my mood also.
Oh, so some of that we have tonight. Name a food that makes you super happy.
I feel like someone else can answer this for me. Pepperoni pizza.
Nice. Are you a morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
Wow.
All right, really good job.
Yeah.
I'm reading The Alchemist right now, and I'm having a hard time finishing. I keep
Oh my
starting
God.
over.
Such a good book.
Now you guys don't even make me add that to my list of books that I need to read.
It's good. It's a short read.
Wow, ladies, you did very well. Now, I do want to take it to another segment. This one's not a game. This is more of the same question being asked to each one of you that has to do more with your personality, right? So we're trying to get to know you guys, know that, it's the right thing to do to go out and vote for you.
And while we get to know you,
Yes.
I want to just remind viewers who may have just tuned in. The last chance to vote is on Tuesday. The polls open at 6 in the morning. They close at 9 at night. Think about what time you're going to go vote, because maybe you're rushing in the morning and you come home and you have childcare responsibilities, or you're cooking or other things. So think about which time of the day you're going to go vote. If you have any questions about finding your poll site, go to voting.nyc. You can also go voting any day leading up to Tuesday, except on Monday. You can go on the weekends, one of the popular polling sites. They're assigned, so you want to check before you go. A lot of people in Southeast Queens are assigned to York College, the casino, or to Rochdale Village. So check what your polling site is.
I do want to give all of our candidates tonight an opportunity, because I know for them, they have different areas that they cover that people can go out and vote in their areas, and they can tell their family to do the same. So we'll start with Attorney Ogle.
Well, I'm actually the county-wide candidate, so I need
Yes.
support from every single corner of Queens. There's no specific area that is a preferential area at this point, because the votes have to come from the entire borough.
So if your favorite color is blue, like soon to be Judge Ogle, but she's running unopposed.
Yes. And for you, Judge Gopi?
So I'm also Queens County wide.
Yes.
So I encourage anyone that lives in Queens and that's registered to vote, please come out.
And what I'll add about Judge Gopi is she has a competitor, right? There are 6 slots for Supreme Court, and there are 9 candidates. The 6 candidates with the most votes win, regardless of party or who they are or it doesn't matter. And so there is a chance here that we are doing this interview tonight because we want you to come out and vote, and go and tell your family to vote for Judge Gopi. Everything is on the line, including the power and the voice of a community that's really proud and is backing Judge Gopi.
Absolutely. And we want to make sure that even you might not be in certain areas, encourage your family and friends in those areas to go out and have a voice. Let them vote.
Anywhere in Queens, any party, as long as you're registered to vote. And if you're unsure, go to voting.nyc, voting.nyc. You can find your own voting history, your poll site, but definitely go out and vote.
Absolutely. And for Attorney Johnson?
So unlike the other candidates, I'm running in a district. So I'm running in the 4th Municipal District. How it will appear on the ballot is civil court countywide, Queens County, or it will just have civil court. It won't say 4th Municipal District like it is done in the past. It's just that you'll actually see my name there. I do have an opponent who's running on the Republican and conservative lines. So my district is all of Southeast Queens. On the eastern side, it's the Long Island border. It goes up as far north as Belrose and Floral Park, and then it cuts across to Queens Village, Hollis, Jamaica, Kew Gardens, Forest Hills, down into Richmond Hill, all the way across Southeast Queens, St. Albans, Cambria Heights, Laurelton, Rosedale, Springfield Gardens, and it goes into the eastern tip of Far Rockaway.
Perfect. And you just heard it. Go out and vote. That's my advice. If you want to see changes, you want to have someone that looks like you, that can make a decision based on their upbringing and that can really know how you're feeling. Uh, Go out there and vote for these awesome women because they know what it's like. They can identify with you. Is that
Absolutely.
correct?
That's 100% correct. And maybe that's not appealing to you. Maybe you want to know someone's credentials and their background.
Yep.
Maybe you want to know what law school they went to or their years of practice. All of these women actually have a lot of information that's public about them.
Yes.
Please look them up. We're here to give you a little bit of information. And if you don't think if you've heard enough, I encourage you to research them, because criminal justice reform or making sure that our judiciary is more diverse, representative, is fundamental to our democracy, and it's fundamental to the country and the communities that we are.
Mhm.
And so these are incredible candidates, and they're asking you for your support. But if you want to know more information, that's also the right thing to do. So they've put out a lot of information.
Mhm.
They're at events all over Queens and,
Yes.
and in certain parts of Queens.
Yes.
Go up to them, introduce yourself. This is the time, and you have until Tuesday.
Definitely. At this point, let us just get in before we wrap up. And this goes to each one of you. How would you describe your ideal self, Attorney Ogle?
I would say my ideal self is patient and very compassionate.
And we can hear that from your voice.
My problem
Uh,
is nobody can hear me most of the time when I'm speaking. I need to project better.
Judge Gopi.
So that's an interesting question. Usually I say to people, as an immigrant, as a mom, as a person that lives in Queens and practices in Queens,
Mhm.
I think I'm practical. I think I'm realistic. I think I've been around and I have the experience, and that I understand, cases and lots of motivations. And going back to the question about my ideal self,
Yes.
I think the best word is understanding and compassionate.
Wow. Compassionate, right? How about you, Attorney Johnson? How would you describe your ideal self?
Enthusiastic, compassionate, and definitely open to perspective.
Yes.
And I think that it takes listening to be that way. And so I like to see myself as someone who does listen and assesses and looks at the different perspectives.
Wow. I love it. Now, tell me something about yourself that will surprise me. And I will start with Attorney Johnson.
I'm a yoga teacher.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that, but it explains all this energy.
Yes. How
I
about
teach
you,
yoga.
Judge Gopi?
I like to bake. So sponge
Bake.
cake and black cake and all the traditional stuff from Trinidad.
Someone mentioned chocolate cake on the. Oh, it was
Yeah.
tiramisu. It wasn't chocolate cake.
There
It
was,
was,
yes. How about you, Attorney Ogle?
I am actually very passionate about music. I think Richard knows that from the people that I associate with. It's my passion, and it's something that I really enjoy doing when I'm not practicing law.
What kind of music would that be?
I don't have a specific genre because I
Okay.
started off with classical music, but I am open to everything and I listen to everything. And I actually co-produced a song last year that was went public, and it's actually on Apple iTunes. And I co-produced a program that Judge Gopi was a part of last year as well on domestic violence.
Oh, wow. We actually had domestic violence discussion last week on Get Real with Shamisa. and it was very interesting. I felt like we could have gone on for several hours, and it was still not. Actually, it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was
Well,
two
it's all
weeks
of
ago.
October, and
Yes, and it was because of October being domestic awareness that we wanted to have that discussion.
we have a lot of people that like purple too. But I want to
Yes,
shout out. Judge Ogle hinted at a band. A lot of people know them. It's the Angels Caribbean Band,
Yes.
yes,
and she has a lot of fans in the community, and it really starts with the Angels Caribbean Band, and they're full of love. They're full of community. They're incredibly professional. So
absolutely,
I always like to shout out people when the opportunity comes up.
Yeah. They
definitely,
have
and
actually
we
been my backbone through this whole process. Yes.
and
Cassandra.
great people indeed. I happen to know them since I was younger. We're not going to give away my age, but as a young girl growing up on the west coast of Demerara, we lived a few villages apart from each other, and I happen to have known VJ and Vinod at that time, and so I am very proud of those guys and everything that they've accomplished and how they give back to the community and everything that they do. So
I thought I saw you at the parties just because you're this like television host and you're now like you're famous
no.
and all of these things. But okay, so there's a personal.
Absolutely. And I try, as you know, as much to support the people in my community as I
Always,
can.
always. It starts there.
So
It starts there.
definitely. Now, my last question that is general for all of you guys, it is, what is one makeup or personal care item that you cannot live without? Now, this is a tough question. So, Richard, you get to pick who goes first.
Let's start with Judge Gopi.
Yes. Would you
Eyeliner.
like me to repeat that tough question for you
No,
tonight?
eyeliner. I can do without lipstick and everything else, but eyeliner.
Eyeliner. Wow, Richard, you cannot identify with this, but I sure can identify with that. Eyeliner. How about Attorney Ogle?
I need my glasses for everything. And if I don't have them, I need my contact lenses.
So
Otherwise, I'm
that's the
in
personal
serious
care
trouble.
items that you cannot live without. Okay. And then we go now to Attorney
Cassandra.
Cassandra Johnson.
So I would say my lipstick, and that's why it's been even more difficult during this pandemic because I can't wear it because it ends up all over the mask. Yeah.
Can I, while we have Cassandra Johnson, can I ask a follow-up question about yoga? What kind of yoga are you teaching?
Vinyasa. I actually teach homeless youth and
Oh,
and have a women's circle that I also teach. Yes.
wow. So tonight we have heard from three incredible women, and I can't tell you how proud I am of these women. But what is your final message to voters out there before you leave us here tonight? And I will start with Attorney Ogle.
To the voters out there, I would say to them that you are the ones who play the most critical role in deciding who the judges are in this election. And it's important that you become informed about who the judges are and that you vote for the judges because the judges will be serving your community as a public servant to you, and we cannot get on the ballot without your support, and we're asking again for you to support each and every one of us. And I stand very proudly tonight with all of the other candidates, with Cassandra, with Judge Gopi. We all belong in a position where we can represent our community and give the people, the voters specifically, faith in the justice system because it's very important that the judiciary reflects the community that it serves. And this is a historical moment for all of us because we have judges who look like us on the ballot, and we have all been qualified to be on the ballot. And it's important that we get your support so that we can get to where we need to be to serve our community.
Wow. Well said there, Attorney Ogle. And now we will move on to Attorney Johnson.
Thank you. It is so important that we engage, and we do get to choose, but most importantly, people have to remember that someone will win, whether or not they participate. And so their being a part of the process becomes even more important because then they get to look at these individuals as people that they supported or didn't, but that they were part of this fundamental process of we have a right to vote. It's a constitutional right. And so to participate in that is significant. It's empowering. And I think that even the roles that we are playing and the roles that we want to play as jurists is one of mentorship, inspiration, and I thank everyone for their support throughout this process, and I request their continued support, of course, as well as the other candidates here. And let's get out there and make history. We have a few days left.
Definitely. And I encourage you, go out and vote. I mean, I can't tell you who to vote for at this time. That's your right to just go out and vote, though, right? You have a right to choose, but just go out and vote. Make the time, go out and vote. Like Richard said, you can start the process as of tomorrow, right? You can go out and you can start voting. Just do it.
That's right. And none of these candidates are running against each other, so you can vote for all three of them.
Yes.
And Shamiza can't say it. She's the host of the show. I can say it. I'd like you to vote for all three of these women.
With that said,
I'm a district leader. I'm very biased. I want these candidates to win, and I'm very clear about who I support in these elections.
We're waiting for Judge Gopee to be back on with us to give us her final words before she leaves us here tonight. Judge Gopee, can you hear us?
Into my camera, and I'm sorry. I'm outside of an event on Queens Boulevard. So
okay.
I thank you for being patient with me. And I echo what Cassandra and Andrea said. If you want your voice to count, we are a community of immigrants, of people who work really hard, that pay taxes, that are business owners, that support other candidates and are out there opinionated. If you want your voice to matter, if you want services in your community, if you want a voice at the table and understanding, it's important to go out and vote. And it's important to support candidates that represent you and that understand our community. So please, voting has started. Go out there, cast your vote, whether it's for us or for someone else. Make your voice matter, and so that our communities matter, whether it's for us or it's for other people in the future. Not only is it important that we get elected because we represent you and we understand you, but the Democratic Party is now considering more diverse candidates. And the only way to have them continue to support us is if you show up and you prove to them that our community is coming out and believes in these candidates and are demanding that we be represented.
Wow.
It's a two-way street. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening. It was truly a pleasure of mine to have each candidate here tonight. And I wish you the best, regardless of the outcome. I am very, very proud of you tonight.
I'm proud of you also, and it's not an easy process to run for office. You've sacrificed a lot, and you've made yourself more public than you have to be. And I want to also thank Shamiza for making space for these kinds of conversations on her show, and for allowing me to be a part of it. I appreciate you for creating the space for us to talk about topics that are so important in our community.
Definitely. And so my advice is go out and vote. Vote. It's your right as a human being to go out and vote. It's the reason we fight so hard to become citizens in this country. So we have that right to vote.
That's right.
All right. So with that said, ladies, good evening to each of you. And thank you so much for being here.
See you at the polls.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow, what an evening.
I learned a lot of things about these candidates. When you're when you're interviewing candidates and you're talking to
Yes.
them, you don't usually ask, their favorite foods and those kinds of things. I'm so glad you asked that because it humanizes these candidates. They're our neighbors.
Exactly. And I mean, everyone knows that, hey, there is an election coming up and, you should go out and vote. But I wanted to really bring out that human aspect of these candidates, who they really are, the little things that makes them a human being, right? Because a
Yeah.
lot of times we hear about all these great stories and, all of these things. For them, I heard real women with real past that made them who they are today, and that's what I really try to bring out when I have people on the show. Is my guests, I try to bring out the human aspect of them. How can they identify with us? What can we see in them that we've all been through? And we saw little things like, yoga instructor. Like I didn't see that coming,
I didn't see
and
that.
their music background and that kind of stuff. It's
And baking, I think, and these candidates have kids, have
they have
families.
families, exactly. And
There is another myth that's out there, and I
mhm,
really try my best to kind of push back against that myth because I think it's false.
uh-huh.
Sometimes people say Guyanese people don't vote. I know you're Guyanese, I'm Guyanese, a lot of your
Yes.
viewers are Guyanese. Guyanese people vote. The lieutenant governor, the second highest position of New York State,
Yes.
he's Guyanese.
And people
Roxanne
vote.
Prasad, she's a state senator, she's Guyanese.
Right.
John Mutuvaran, he's a city council member in Schenectady, he's Guyanese.
Yeah.
Alicia Heineman, right here in
Yes.
Southeast Queens, is Guyanese. Guyanese people vote. And so there is this idea sometimes that we don't vote. I want to push back against that. I'm a district leader. I got elected because people voted.
And you're in a community that is so diverse. So I'm sure every different country that we are represented at, whether it's Trinidad, Haiti, Brazil, Venezuela, we're went out and vote to put you where you are today. And so
That's true.
it's important, though. It all starts with the simple vote. It doesn't take much. I think most companies will allow their employees time to go out and vote on a day like Monday. Is that correct?
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday,
And
yes.
I forgot to mention our deputy borough president, Rhonda Binda, is Guyanese.
Yes, she
When you start
is.
naming names, you get in trouble and you leave someone out. But yeah, it takes a lot of support and coalitions. But while I'm talking to the Guyanese community, it's really important that people change that narrative and really update that narrative because it's outdated. Guyanese
Yes.
people vote in large numbers, and actually, we are the second largest immigrant group in Queens, and so we cannot be overlooked, and we will not be overlooked. And that is why these candidates are coming on shows like Shamiza's show to ask for your vote because they value this community.
Yes, and they want to be a part of it. They want to give back because they know the struggles. They know what it's like, and they know they feel it, right? So they want to make sure that the judicial system is one that is we're all free to go to it and trust it. They want to bring that back to our community, right? We've had a lot of cases and a lot of things happen in our community where we kind of let go of the trust in our community to have people that look like us that can be there for us. It's really, really important.
Unfortunately, and this happens in our home countries as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our residents come before the court
Mm-hmm.
for all kinds of disputes,
Mm-hmm.
landlord-tenant disputes, criminal cases, divorces. It's very important that we're represented in every facet of life in this city,
Absolutely.
including in the judiciary, because I've seen really harsh judgments come out against people who are from this community, and
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that geographically, Southeast Queens. And there's a moment where we can bring greater compassion for the people that come before them. These could be your kids that
Absolutely.
come before these judges.
Definitely, Richard. And so tonight, I want to ask each and every one of you, if you've watched these ladies, if you have any other questions, reach out to them. There is a way to reach out to each and every single one of the candidates that we had on the show tonight. Reach out to them if you have questions. If you're concerned about something in your community, reach out to them. But the most important thing, regardless of who you vote for, just go out and vote. you've made it this far with the right to vote. Remember, there were times as women that we couldn't even vote. Today you have that opportunity, so go out and vote. That's my appeal to everyone, is really go out and vote.
And so we covered it, right? Y'all gonna vote. There's no exceptions.
No exceptions.
One of the privileges I have as a district leader is nominating judges. And so I take it very personally. A lot of people don't know what a district leader does.
Yes.
And one of the things that we do as district leader, including, increasing voter awareness and, finding poll sites and poll workers, we also have a say in who gets nominated for judgeships. And so these are candidates that receive nominations, and I was a part of that. So I want to see that we go all the way.
Yes.
And I'm pulling out all the stops to see that we go all the way.
Definitely. So tonight's guests have taught me to be strong women. We must be able to withstand the test of time, constantly reinvent ourselves, and never give up. These women are the epitome of grace, beauty, and strength. I would like to encourage more women to go out there and pursue careers that's like these. We need more women attorneys and judges. Until next time, I thank you on behalf of Richard. I thank you for watching tonight. Stay blessed. Be yourself unapologetically. Good night.
NNS Ogle Licensed Custom Brokerage Services Inc. is a Guyanese-owned and registered company located at Lot 49 Public Road, Kitty, Georgetown, with branch office at Lot 10-acre Media Ida on the west coast of Demerara. We offer an all-inclusive service, including delivery for all your commercial imports of air and sea cargo, containerized or LCL, vehicle and equipment, and much more. Make that call today, 225-5495, or visit our pages at www.nsolglebrokerage.com or find us on Facebook at NS Ogle Brokerage.
Gavin sing at Rancho. Yeah, my liquor is my lover. I was born a drinker. Yeah, my liquor is my lover. I was born a drinker.
Enos Driving School offers training for CDL licenses, including tractor trailers, trucks, and school buses. Just think, with a CDL license, you can have access to thousands of driving jobs at large companies such as FedEx, UPS, MTA, or New York Sanitation. Enos Driving School also offers defensive driving courses and training classes for cars and motorcycles, all taught by their college-trained instructors who can even schedule your road test appointments. Inquire about other driving and training packages as well. You might even be qualified for their free CDL training, as they are a certified institution with the New York State Workforce One program. Call Enos Driving School today. They've been serving our community for over 10 years.
Imagination Foundation. Since it has been founded in 2014, Imagination Foundation has been dedicated to providing recreational, educational, and health benefits to the less fortunate in Guyana. From awareness concerts to free concerts where thousands have attended, to annual back-to-school events where hundreds of backpacks and school supplies are distributed so that children can start their year fresh and equipped to learn. Annual Christmas events with toys and games, providing hot meals to orphanages and the Dharamsala. Our team work hard and tirelessly. We are proud to consistently distribute hundreds of hampers throughout the pandemic, thanks to kind donors and sponsors and our founder. Look us up on Facebook if you would like to be part of this amazing movement. Imagination Foundation.